Agenda is the Englewood Beach Water Fest. And who's kicking this off? Does it go to you, Mr. Stead, right off the bat? Staff doesn't? There you go. It's all you then. Somebody get him set up. Thank you, Hector.
Good morning, Commissioners. I thank you for this opportunity. I stand before you as a proud citizen of Englewood, as the president of the Englewood Chamber of Commerce, and as a business general manager, Cape Hayes Marina, located in Englewood, as well as being co-chair of the Englewood Beach Waterfest. You've heard from a lot of our members today. Elaine Miller, my co-chair, is here with me this morning, and I do appreciate the opportunity to present this information. You've heard a lot about our organizational structure in past presentations, but we are incorporated as a 501c3. We are an all-volunteer, 11-member board of directors. We have added some board members that could not be here this morning from outside of the chamber involvement. We have a volunteer attorney and accountant that are handling all of our back-end work that we're highly confident in. We have our complete schedule of events. I won't go down through this list, but as you can see, they're large and small. Some of them are fundraisers. Some of them are more to engage the members in different segments of the community. For instance, the Fame movie nights are geared more towards having children down on Dearborn, and they'll be watching water-oriented movies. Other events, the Fame Music Festival, that is a partnership with us to help them promote their event. Cardboard boat races, again, that's to involve the children, keep them active, and that's being put together by the Englewood Board of Realtors. So we have a lot of broad support within the community for all of our various events. Of our major events, EcoFest is November 1st, 2015. It will take place in Lemon Bay Park. It will be designed, or has been designed, I should say, to have interactive exhibits to involve the children and hopefully make it a totally family-oriented event to where folks can come in and learn about the environment. Over almost 40 different organizations have been invited to participate. The responses are coming back in. We're highly encouraged that we're going to have a great turnout of participating organizations. In the course of our organization of the event, we've done presentations to groups such as the Lemon Bay Conservancy and others to elicit their support. It is important to us that we emphasize the protection of our water resources in Englewood. Paddle sports, we have a world-class paddle sports race being staged on November 14th. That will take place at the Wannabe Inn in Stump Pass Beach State Park. As I've described to you in the past, our venue is very unique in the stand-up paddleboard racing world in that the spectators will be able to see the entire course. Most of the time, you'll have a central location and the races will take off, and nobody sees what's happening. Having the race around Stump Pass Beach State Park affords the spectators the opportunity to follow along with the racers as they so desire, or go from one side of the course to the other and keep up. We're proud to announce that Nikki Gregg, who is a world-class paddler, she's kind of known as the queen of paddle sports, will be joining us at our event and conducting clinics. This event will also have a kids component and a fun component for the general population. And then the granddaddy event of our event, which we're just so excited about, is the OPA APBA Offshore World Championship. This is a 4-day racing event. Will take place on Englewood Beach. Chadwick Park will serve as our wet pit location. Englewood Beach will serve as our race village. Bud Light Race Village, we're just thrilled with. The business community on Englewood Beach has embraced Waterfest. We have a list of those businesses there for your perusal. Every business on Englewood Beach within the immediate area has agreed to become a supporter and join us in producing Race Village. What's nice about Race Village is they will be helping us sell our transportation passes in advance of the event. They'll be distributing information for us. In addition, they will also be offering specials to those people that purchase the transportation passes. So it is a true partnership. Peace River Distributing, and the reason it's called the Bud Light Race Village, is heavily invested in our event. They are bringing in a huge outside Bud Light display that will serve as our beer vending area during Race Village, and in addition to other activities that they're planning. They're a huge sponsor and supporter of Englewood Beach Waterfest. So it's 3 days of racing and activities in Race Village on Englewood Beach. As part of staging this event, we looked at varying issues that we needed to make sure that we addressed. We are definitely committed to public safety. We've been working with Charlotte County Sheriff's Office, and we thank them for being present here for this presentation. Charlotte County Parks has been extremely helpful in helping us organize everything. We've worked with the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office, Englewood Fire District, and again, thank you for attending this morning, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, and the United States Coast Guard is currently processing our permit. We have received preliminary schedules and budgets from all of these organizations, and as soon as the Coast Guard processes our permit, we will have all of our commitments in place in order to successfully stage a safe and friendly event for everybody concerned. Parking and transportation, as you know, parking on Englewood Beach can be somewhat of a challenge. We understand that. We've secured ample parking within a brief bus ride to the event. We've identified over 5,000 parking spots in close proximity to the event and are currently working with Sarasota County area transit officials in designing 2 circular bus ramps or bus routes that will run continuously. We will not be running point to point. We will be running 2 circular bus routes that will run continuously with adequate buses to move the people back and forth to the beach. We will be using a combination of contracted and donated bus and trolley transportation to accomplish this. We are even exploring the possibility of water taxi, but we don't have that nailed down yet. We are, as you heard earlier, committed to our local charities. The Placida Rotary and Sunrise Rotary and the Rotary Club of Englewood. And you've heard from Don during public comment. He's representing the Placida Rotary. And Jerry is here from the Rotary Club of Englewood. They are going to be our major beer supplier or beer vendors during the event. We met with representatives of their board last night in a joint meeting for about an hour, and we worked out all of those details. I did see in my email box this morning that final draft of that contract, so we hope to have that executed yet today. So all those details have been worked out. Additional charities that we're affiliated with is Friends of for the Advancement of Musical Education. If you're not familiar with that group, they raise funds to buy instruments for children in the local school systems. So we're going to help them out as much as we possibly can. The Englewood Area Board of Realtors and the Englewood Incubation Center, which you've heard from earlier today. Our commitment to economic impact. The event encompasses the greater Englewood area and spans 2 counties. Visit Sarasota County, the Suncoast Superboat Grand Prix Festival. They're now in their 30th year. And they generated in their last report, which we've provided you in your briefing meetings, an economic impact of $32 million and generated 15,000 room nights. Obviously, in our first year, we don't anticipate those kind of numbers. But even conservatively, if we have 20,000 people visit during the 4 days of our event at $100 per person, it's a tremendous economic impact. In fact, the sales tax on that economic impact would surpass the investment we're asking you to make in Englewood Beach Waterfest. Our commitment to tourism. We've worked closely with Visit Sarasota County. They are a sponsor and a partner with us. With the Charlotte County VCB, Laura and her gang have been just absolutely wonderful in helping us plan the event, as well as helping us direct our energies in the proper direction. We have received a grant from Visit Florida. That's the first time in my memory and most of the board's memory that we've received any grant funding to Englewood from the state of Florida in any shape or form. So we're kind of proud of that. Not that you haven't received funding to do infrastructure projects, but this is a direct benefit to the Englewood community. So we're excited about having Visit Florida as a partner. The majority of the offshore race teams will be from the Midwest and the Northeast markets, which I know is a target of the VCB. And a contingent of over 200 people will be accompanying the race teams. These individuals will be spending money on accommodations, food, etc. In addition to the race teams, there are a tremendous number of people that are associated with the race teams. There'll be race suppliers, there'll be other groups, there'll be media coverage. Offshore racing receives tremendous media coverage both online and in print, and representatives of those organizations will be here showcasing Englewood. As you heard from Ken Kenzie this morning, the race will be broadcast in select markets in the Midwest as well as locally. ABC7, having them on board as a partner, is very helpful. And when we tie it all back in together, having a partner like WENG and having a live broadcast and having that kind of support allows us to direct the public to a single source point in addition to our website to be kept constantly updated. They can find out what parking lots are full by listening to WENG, what parking lots are empty, status of the bus ramps, etc. So we have some tremendous partners there. Our outreach program includes the Englewood Sun as a major sponsor who will be printing over 90,000 of our race programs. Those will be distributed in markets out in Polk County, other areas outside of Charlotte County. We've partnered with Visit Florida, Florida Weekly, and Florida Weekly will be running coverage on the east coast of Florida and reaching obviously down into Collier County. Sponsor development has been a major focus of the board since day one. We are encouraged by the community support that has transpired during the last several months. We are working with commitments that total now, today, these totals change daily, but these totals total over $200,000 currently. That's both cash and in-kind, but those in-kind sponsorships support an expense of the event that we might not normally have. We are operating with the mindset that our expenses will total $300,000 plus, and we continue to do everything possible to obviously lower our expenses and increase our sponsorship development in income. I won't read through this entire list, but to me, it demonstrates the broad support within the Englewood community. The Englewood Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors has supported the event tremendously. If we were to pick a major sponsor, it would be the Englewood Sun, Englewood Chamber of Commerce, and Peace River Distributing would be our three major sponsors. Everybody else is here at varying levels. They can range from $500 up to $5,000 to $7,500, some at the $10,000 level. That list continues. Different places have developed innovative concepts to help us raise money. Howard's Restaurant came up with a concept. They came up with the concept on their own, and it's a weekly drawing that works out excellent for us, and we anticipate that they will raise as much as $5,000 to help stage Englewood Beach Waterfest. So I come to our request for funding. In my previous presentations to you, I always said there'd be the day that I came for the request for funding and asked that you consider that. So we ask you to join the other government agencies, including those in Sarasota County, that are going to support our inaugural event with your commitment to provide general revenue funds to help us assure the success of our event. Your return on investment would come from sales tax, gas tax, and tourism tax on overnight stays. Additional benefits accrue from out-of-market promotion and exposure. In your briefing packets, you had a breakdown of our request for funding that included $45,000 as a payment to APBA, which is the final payment on our agreement with our race promoter. In kind is possible by waiving payment of temporary use permit fees and permits for Race Village, waiving of the Parks and Rec preparation of Englewood Beach parking lot, waiving those fees, and the estimated fees of $31,000 for the Sheriff's Department and $6,450 for the Charlotte County EMS. Those total $109,500, and we respectfully ask for your support of Englewood Beach Waterfest. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Constance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ken, got some questions. So you said that Visit Florida is supporting this financially. How much money did they give you?
They've provided us a $5,000 grant to promote Waterfest out of the market to attract visitors to the area.
And the Tourism Bureau has already given you $20,000?
The tourism grant was to the Englewood Beach Chamber of Commerce, and they have passed that through to Waterfest. So, yes.
Okay. And how much money directly has Sarasota County given you?
Sarasota County is in the middle of their budget cycle. Due to the timing of their budget cycle, they can't put it in writing yet, but it is in their budget cycle, and we've been assured it will be approved. They have agreed to Visit Sarasota County has agreed to $10,000 in-kind promotion through online media and other vehicles, as well as $10,000 in cash. We are working with Sarasota County to provide scat bus transportation during the Sunday event, which is our biggest event.
So is that what you're listing here as the bus transportation, $30,000? Of in-kind from Sarasota County?
Correct.
Okay. And then one other question, just having sort of witnessed last year's event, how are you going to monetize all of that boat spectator traffic?
I can't tell you how many hours we've probably invested in trying to monetize the boat traffic. We do have a program where the respective marinas in the area can be featured on our website for a not fairly nominal amount, to be honest with you, based on the amount of gas sales, et cetera, that is expended. I know at my marina last year, people that hadn't had their boat out in 6 months, some probably longer than that, decided now's the time to fix my boat. I want to go out to the boat race. So there's an indirect economic impact associated with it, but monetizing it is really tough.
If I can make a suggestion, maybe one way to do that is to purely on a donation basis, but have every gas pump within 20 miles at a marina basically say, here's how much your fill-up is, and would you like to donate $10 to the boat race that we know you're going to go out and go watch?
That's actually an excellent idea.
And then maybe you could get some revenue that way.
We might be able to sell them some Race Village passes, which comes with the discounts at the beach businesses too. That's a great idea, Chris.
Mr. Chairman, one thing, and I'm going to let the attorney weigh in, but one thing that was brought to my attention was that if this gets approved today, really we need to come back with an agreement.
Yes.
So that just let's not get ahead of ourselves. I mean, the point is, and so normally I would not vote for this because I'm trying to stay consistent with what I did last time, but I'm willing to go forward and at least give this a look-see based on the agreement. So that's all I want to say. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Deutsch and Commissioner Duffy.
Thank you. When we had this item come to us a year or so ago before, I voted in favor with some trepidation. The event was relatively successful, although there were some disappointments involved in it that we're all aware of, and some of those are actually in litigation right now. This is a whole different activity in my mind. I think the mobilization and involvement of the Englewood community has been absolutely fantastic. I think the dedication to trying to come up with some money to support a number of charities, again, in my mind, is really impressive. This event, from the folks that I've seen and talked to, has actually gone a long way in pulling the Englewood community together. It's sort of interesting, obviously, that we transcend into Sarasota County. I guess my first priority is Charlotte County, so I look at it special. But I'm excited about what you guys are doing. I think the sense of teamwork and the degree of cooperation is impressive. As most folks know, we'll often, no matter what we have to discuss, it's rare that there isn't a plus and a minus. But I will tell you, the responses that I've received are like better than 95% positive, go with it, support it, it's a great idea. You know, you're always going to get a handful on the other side. But I just want to compliment you folks, and, you know, we've had our individual meetings, and I guess Ed and I drove each other crazy several months ago, but I think the project's exciting. I think it's going to be good for us, and, you know, certainly I think it's important that we come up with an agreement we can live with, but I'm very comfortable to support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Deutsch. Commissioner Duffy?
Thank you. I also think that you've done a great job. You've really made it into a huge community project. It's really impressive, the work you've done and the cooperation you receive from the businesses in Charlotte County and specifically in the Englewood West County area. It's very heartwarming to see that you've done that. I've done a little bit of research. I've met with Elaine and some other board members, and I have a really positive feeling about the future of the project. I have a proposal, though. Rather than ask us, the county, making a cash donation to cover the Sheriff's Department costs and fire and EMS, I would propose that we just pay directly to take care of our fire and EMS and Sheriff's Department costs, that we pay that for them, and then that we make a donation for the $45,000 fee to the OPA organization. And I also think that the $25,000 fee from Parks and Recs to move the wooden parking space bumpers out of the way, I think that's kind of a bit much, but I think we could get that down. Somehow we should be able to do that for quite a bit less. So if you add that all together, the Sheriff's Department estimate, the fire and EMS, and the $45,000, that would be $82,500, which is relatively what we had planned originally for the previous organization in the neighborhood. So I would make a motion that we approve the payment, that we I don't know how to word it, that not payment, but that we
give direction to
give direction,
because we have to get the contract back for those items in that amount,
right? And that we also ask Parks and Recs to substantially reduce that $25,000 estimate, or we consider waiving it. I don't know how Parks and Recs the budget, if they could handle that or not, but if we could, I think that would be appropriate.
Okay, I have a motion. I have an attorney question, and I'll explain in a minute, but I'm going to second it for discussion. Just didn't realize it until one of the speakers came up. I'm on the board of the Englewood Incubator Center, so I can't vote. But I can speak. So I'm going to say a few things. And it just hit me. I didn't even realize it. But that's the way it is, folks. And I will tell you this. I think that your motion is a good motion. I noticed that we had some increase in costs last year to this year in some areas, including the SO, Parks and Rec, and Englewood Fire Control District. And I'm going to tell you that's probably based upon some experience of last year and what they anticipate needing. And I can tell you that we all know that there are those that did not get funded from and supplying labor and support services. So I'm sure that there is concern there. I also have concern about FWC, whose officers have to come out of pocket to pay to be on the water, and they didn't get reimbursed. So I would like this board to consider adding the FWC amount to what we are going to make certain is handled. And I would like for the board to comment on that. I think we've got support for this. I want to make sure they're covered because that was the hardest thing for me last year.
I'd be happy to add that to my motion. That's a really good point. I just forgot about it.
And then the second accepts it. Thank you.
What does that make the total, Bill?
It was 82 something plus 6450. So you can round it. If we want to say $88,000.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Doherty?
Yeah, I just had some questions. Again, I agree with my colleagues. This project is entirely different, in my opinion, from what we were looking at a year or so ago. It's a lot of good work has been accomplished. I do have just some questions and just clarifications as we plow through an agreement.
Sure.
That I see in your backup information, your net projected deficit is like almost 89,000, but your request is 109,000. So I'm just is there an easy answer to the delta there between the two numbers?
No, in the respect that as we negotiate varying items, the numbers change, and part of this was put together while I was out of town, and so it was more giving you the advance notice of the presentation.
I appreciate that. I just, again, that's just when you look at the projected net deficit, and the request is 20,000 more. I just need some information as to why there is a delta. Is it a contingency amount? Is it, what is it? I guess as far as the 45,000, what's the timeline on when you need to actually submit that second payment to OPA?
That would be right around the 1st of November.
1st of November, okay. Just, again, to look at the timeline on, looks like we would have to, if I'm just trying to look maybe over at Ms. Knowlton, we would have to have an agreement then by the second meeting in October. Okay, so it's a challenge. Mm-hmm. And I guess as far as the in-kind request, I support what my colleagues are saying. I guess is in concept. I think we do need to drill down into the cost of these things for all the public safety services, and just to understand the numbers a little bit more. And just, in addition to what our Parks and Rec budget number is, just to understand why the numbers are where they are, why they've gone up on public safety. I understand from my meetings with y'all that you did take the experience from last year and extrapolated it the best you could to when you created your original budget for the additional length of time, but the actual numbers have come in even higher. So need to understand where that's come from. So other than that, I'm in agreement, though, with moving ahead on trying to structure an agreement, and then we go from there.
Okay, I've got Commissioner Deutsch.
Yeah, just real quick. I think the $21,000 difference we discussed, and I think that's been covered in Commissioner Duffy's motion in terms of trying to adjust some of those costs. So I think we're all on the same page here.
I just need to point out, we get to run through the math again after Commissioner Constance speaks, because I got to address that. I'm coming up with a whole lot different number than I said. Go ahead.
Yeah, so real quick, I don't see Tommy Scott in the audience, and I don't know if Kelly is aware of what the reason is for that $25,000 cost. She may have been in communication, so that may be an important piece of information. The other thing is, I don't know, and I'd like the county attorney to elaborate, but she's of the opinion that we probably shouldn't be paying for public safety directly, that we should, I mean, certainly in the contract we can insist in the contract that the first people paid are public safety, FWC, and so forth, so that those guys get their money first before anybody else is paid, and then we're paying for the other things just based on precedent. Ms. Knowlton?
Commissioners, I was going to recommend, depending on the dollar amount that you came up with, that we back it into assuming you don't want to set precedents by paying for public safety for these kind of events, that you backtrack how you got to the number. But if the number is 89,000, I don't know how you get there.
It's 111.5.
I can clarify. Well, actually, I got 113,950. If you add in the 25,000 for Parks and Recs, but that includes 45,000 for OPA, 3150 for the Sheriff's Department, 6450 for our fire and EMS. Then I added the 6450 for Fish and Wildlife, and that comes to 88,950. And then if you take that, and we have to look at the Parks and Recs budget, and Ray can help with that too, but if they can handle that by eating those costs, that would bring us to a total of 113,950.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Sandrock, please.
And the $25,000 really is more than just what's stated here. You know, it's they're monitoring their staffing for the week, setting up restrooms. So, I doubt that we're going to be able to reduce that. In fact, in some ways, like the Charlotte County Fire EMS last year, costs were pretty similar to, just a little bit less than this. So as we negotiate further, because the event's longer, I think that's one of the things you're asking, why are some of these public safety costs. Last year was more limited, the events. So
Right. Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Constance?
Yeah, and I can understand that because it's more broad-ranging. And I just, in trying to bring this sort of back down to earth, I know that we had 70,000 left over that we kind of didn't put out from the last time. And so that would cover the 45 for OPA and the 25 for community services. And as much as I'm opposed to funding, I probably could go that far, but I can't go any further. I mean, I'm going to approve giving staff direction to bring back a contract, but that's about my limit. I think that's reasonable, and then they need to, in the agreement, agree to be the first thing that they do is pay public safety, and they're just being, they've got to understand they've got to make a little bit more money. They've got to just work a little bit harder and get the marketing to get the people down here. And if we can help, let's help. I mean, I'm all for it. I think we can have, voluntarily, I'll definitely help get the tourism board out there to get all hands on deck and try to call everybody we know and get this thing promoted. But this just keeps growing. I have an issue with that. So thank you.
I understand, Commissioner. There's a couple things, and I did speak with the attorney, and it was recommended the direction of the public safety stuff. So I kind of get that. But I think one of the things that I would like to address is funding and where we can get funding from, because we do have a BP settlement that is for loss of tourism, and I would like to see us consider, not today, but when we talk about funding, where that comes from, and if we couldn't use some of that settlement money that we've already received that's in the general fund to the tune of around 5.2. I think that should be a discussion that we have at the time we talk about the contract as to where it comes from. And I think that in and of itself would provide flexibility as to the amount. Commissioner Doherty?
Mr. Chairman, that's pretty interesting. I would certainly want to have administration, legal weigh in on that, but that certainly takes some of the concern I have for this number away. And so I appreciate you throwing that idea out. Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Duffy?
Correction, I was off by 2,000. It's 111.
Okay. Now, what I think we need to do today, and we've got to try to boil this back down, is give staff direction. And I'm hearing clear consensus on the remaining $70,000, and potentially there may be opportunity for more because the motion was, and again, it was for certain items which totaled 111.5. So I can't vote. Remember that. I want you guys, if you need to have further discussion on where you want to go, please have it. If not, I will call for a vote based upon what our discussion was. Commissioner Deutsch and then Commissioner Duffy.
I was going to vote. I thought you were going for the vote.
Commissioner Duffy, did you have comment?
Just one clarification. Commissioner Constance, the reason I specifically recommended that we not appropriate just the cash, but that we agree to pay the Sheriff's Department directly and now Fish and Wildlife and our own fire and EMS, in hopes that we can get those costs down a little bit. I talked to the sheriff about this the other day. There's deputies here in the audience that have been working with the committee. It's possible that the cost may be lower, but at least the funds are allocated if it is that much. So I would really like to stick to that part of it, that we agree we're just going to take care of those costs.
And if I may, I don't, okay.
Ms. Knowlton?
I need to ask, since we're drafting the contract, I want to make sure I'm clear and bring back the document you want. So I will craft it so that, say, for the sheriffs, that you are funding, that you will direct pay for the sheriff's fees at a not to exceed figure of 31,050. In addition to all of the other ones that were discussed. Okay.
Yes. And I like that method because it does, I mean, whether we do dollars or we take care of those issues, the result is we know that our departments are paid.
Right.
Kind of self-serving, but yet
Right.
it's still being part of the team.
And we trust you, but considering what happened last year, we have to make sure that those agencies are paid. And this way, you don't have to worry about it.
We
We'll take
fully
care of it.
understand.
We'll take care of it. The only cash then that we would be appropriating would be the $45,000 for you to send to OPA.
Correct.
And then therefore the agreement, I don't know how much more would be in the agreement, Jeanette, if we're
We'll leave that to legal.
okay.
Commissioner Constance?
So then, Ms. Knowlton, what is your reservation with doing it that way?
Commissioner, my reservation was, originally I was going to suggest come up with a dollar amount and then let's plug it into something other than public safety. My only concern is there are other events coming up or in the future, unknown events, and you are setting precedent that the county is going to be supporting paying the public safety if you're going to contribute. So there.
And this is probably, I know people want to get to the vote, but this is probably a good time to at least start the discussion about policy and the way that these types of asks that come forward should be vetted to the board. And just the way we have the advisory board for the multi-year implementation plan, we have the VCB and we have tourism, and we are working on a policy for when projects like this come forward. They should go to the VCB, be vetted out that way, and then that's sort of an in-between. But I'm just, what I don't want to do is set something up where, we're now on the hook to cover these types of things. Does that mean we have to in the future?
No.
Oh.
I don't think it means you have to, but
No.
I can tell you I would assume people will say, well, you did it for them, why can't you do it for us? But that's a decision you can make in the future.
And if I can, Commissioner Constance, I know that there has been a lot of conversation between our Tourism Visitors Convention Bureau staff and this group And, I don't know why it didn't go before the tourism committee. And maybe that's something we do talk about in the future, that it goes through that avenue. But before we make that kind of a decision, I would like to hear from Ms. Steiner in reference to that and process and what she recommends, and then we can vet out that policy. But I think it's a good point.
Yeah, well, that should be coming. Hopefully, we've asked that by our next meeting in November.
You may. You may.
Yeah, come forward, please.
Mr. Sandwalk, while she's approaching, go ahead.
Sure. Just a couple things. I think we probably need a little bit more time with Chief Taylor to look at the EMS costs, because we're getting some information that she wants to review that a little closer. Also, BP is on the October 20th. The $5.8 million is on the October 20th workshop. And I think also community services, we need to relook that number a little bit more based upon what I'm hearing.
Good.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate when I'm explaining this that the TDC gave $20,000 to the chamber as part of a pilot program for a new event development during the off-season that we initiated in 2015. That had a basic application with it. And then we're in the process of developing, and actually I think Ken Stead sits on that committee, an attraction funding development program, and that the impetus for that was the request